Okay, so thanks guys for joining. Today what we're going to talk about is the benefits of integrating accounting, specifically with Financial Edge NXT for Canadians, and integrating with Razor's Edge. So just a little bit about what our agenda is. We're going to do a couple of introductions, and then we're going to talk about what Financial Edge is, the benefits of it, how Razor's Edge and Financial Edge can integrate, and then we're of course going to do a live demo, and we'll get you out of here on time or early. Just a little bit about the team. I'm Jeff Janak, as you guys all know. Sandrea Crowther unfortunately could not join us today, but she is also part of the team. I've got 25 years fundraising experience. I've been working with Blackbaud products for my entire career. Sandrea is a chartered accountant, certified public accountant in Canada, and has over 30 years of finance and accounting experience. And she's the one that leads all of our Financial Edge implementations and training. So what is Financial Edge NXT? So Rehan and other people already use Razor's Edge NXT, and so we know that it is 100% cloud-based. And what that means is that the data is stored in our Toronto data center, which is great news for Canada. It is not stored anywhere else in the world. It is stored here in Toronto in a brand new Microsoft Azure data center. And Financial Edge NXT is really one of the true fund accounting programs out there. There is a lot of other programs, QuickBooks and things, which a lot of nonprofits use, but it's not really a true fund accounting product where Financial Edge NXT is. One of the great benefits of the web is the one-click reporting and what we call the sky reporting. And I'm going to give you a quick sort of show of that, how that works, and how you can just, with a simple click of a button, you can see the results of a fund. You can see your public sector bodies report. You can see, very quickly what it is. And of course, because Razor's Edge NXT is cloud-based, everything is based here in the Toronto servers, full 100% integration with Razor's Edge NXT. So what is the benefit of it? Well, the main benefit is the new HTML5 web interface. It is very easy to use. It is very point and click. I often tell people, if they can use Facebook or if they can buy a book on Amazon, then they can use NXT for Financial Edge or even Razor's Edge. Very simple to use. The reporting is top notch. It also has direct integration with all the Canadian banks. So pulling in bank reconciliations are even easier than ever because it can automatically download all the transactions for you. You then can just match them up if they don't already get auto-matched. So bank recs should take no time at all. And of course, everybody does like to export things to Excel for some additional analysis. So the exporting to Excel is beautiful, perfect. And because it is a web application, if you share a report, if you share a PDF report with a board member or committee member, and if we give them, view access to the database, they can then click on one of the links and drill right back into the database. And I'll show you what that would look like in the demo portion. And of course, because both products are from Blackbaud, I'm going to show how the direct integration can happen, how easy it is it's going to take. So I'm going to take you right back into a batch. I'm going to show you the batch, and then I'm going to show you basically what the post to general ledger portion looks like, and then I'll show you. I've already done it just to save us some time, so I've already ran the integration, but you can see I ran it this morning just to pull the stuff in just to save us some time in the webinar. The best part is this will make sure everything is always in balance. Something I hear from clients all the time is that the Razor's Edge numbers don't ever reconcile with finance. This is a common issue that nonprofits face, and this way we can always make sure things are in balance. And this includes any adjustments, any changing of funds, NSF checks, whatever it might be. We do all of that. We do all of that in Razor's Edge, and then we push all that information over to Financial Edge to make sure everything is in balance. And then, of course, we can do, some advanced reporting, events analytics using what they call Sky Reporting in Financial Edge. And we can even drill down and get into doing, which we're not going to cover in here, that'll be in another session, where we get into talking about donor statements, making sure that everybody has all the correct numbers from your board, your committees, your donors, fundraisers. Everybody has exactly what they need. So, with that being said, let's go into the live demo portion and let's take a look at it. So you can see here, I do have Razor's Edge up and running, and I created this batch this morning. I'm just going to sort my batches here, and I'm going to find batch 116. So this is the batch that I had created this morning. It's got a couple of transactions in here, nothing exciting. So the way, just to recap, Razor's Edge has funds. Funds is the designation. Where is the money going to be going? So if I give money to Christina's charity, if I give money to Elizabeth's charity, can I designate that money? Where is it just all general funds, or can I designate it to particular programs, particular services, that sort of thing? So in here, I have two people, and they've donated $100 each to what I'm just calling the DAP fund, and then the OH Pavilion as well. So just two designations, two different directed monies that the donor has given to. I've already committed this batch. Remember, most of the time we're doing our data entry from the batch system, and so I've already done that. And then, of course, if I open up one of these two records, we can see that the gift has been put on their record. So I'm just going to go to the gift, and there is the gift, $100. And you'll notice it's grayed out here, and that's because under the miscellaneous tab, I have already indicated the GL post status as posted. So when the batch was created, it was put in as not posted because this gift had not been posted yet. And then I ran through the posted general ledger process. So let's just talk about that for a minute. So we've got our gifts. We've recorded the revenue in Razor's Edge. We can run in the database view or the web view. We can run our reports to say, okay, yes, everything reconciles. We have the checks, and we now want to pass that information on. So in the admin system, we come over here into Post to General Ledger, and we initiate the posting process. Posting process is actually a two-step process. The first step would be to run the pre-posting report. The pre-posting report looks at all the gifts that we just entered and validates it against what's in Financial Edge NXT. What I mean by that is making sure our account numbers are set up. So we do, when we're setting up the funds in Razor's Edge, we need to set up and link into the direct debit and credit account numbers. We do that, and then in the pre-posting step, we then make sure that there are no issues. We make sure there are no invalid funds. Sometimes fundraising will create a new fund, and maybe we haven't gone in and linked to designate the GL accounts in there yet. The GL distribution is done under the fund, so if we went into records and then we went into the DAP fund, we would be able to see that information in there. So the two-step process, we come in and we run the validation report, which I did. Everything looked good. Then we come over here and post the gifts to Financial Edge. And by checking the checkbox here to post the gifts over, it will then create a journal entry. And I'm going to go into Financial Edge NXT shortly and show you what that would look like. We have a couple of different options depending on how you want to do it. I've just left it at detail, but most of the time we want to post it in summary. If we've got a lot of transactions, so if you've just come back from a big event, if it's the holiday season, I know our Muslim friends just finished Ramadan, and that is a big fundraising time for them. So there are a lot of donations that have come in. We don't want to post all of that stuff in there. I've just left it in there for demo purposes only, but best practice would say post it in summary mode because we just want to summarize by the different funds. When you need the detail, if somebody says, I want to know the detail of our OH Pavilion fund, we would then go back to the Razor's Edge to get that detail that needed. I decided to group the transactions by batch. I only had one batch, but I decided to group them, but that's, again, not necessary. Or we could group them by GL post date as well if we needed to. So these are some options we have, and then there's also a gifts tab where we can decide how we're going to commit the batches. I have it currently set to go by batch number. This way it'll prompt us for the batch numbers that we can use, very similar to how we run our tax receipts and thank you letters, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, under format, we can decide how we want our formatting in there. So we would hit the post now. It would go through, find our gifts, and generate the transactions. And then I'm going to switch now over here into Financial Edge. So now we've now switched over to the web view. And if I come in here into General Ledger, I come under Journal Entry, my batch would then have been created. So Financial Edge is now loading up the General Ledger portion of the program and coming in, and it's going to show me all of my journal entries. I have a bunch of them in there. I should delete some of these. So there's my journal entry, my Razor's Edge journal entry from 7/18. 2018 is the one I just created. So to interact with Financial Edge, you can see it's very point and click, it's all web-based, it's all modern. You can see the menus up here. Again, just single click, I can get in here. When I want to interact with the particular batches, there's a little button with 3 ellipses. I can just click on that and it gives me a view or edit option. I'm going to choose edit. And it's going to come up and it's going to now show me my journal entry that was created from Razor's Edge. So right now, the fundraising department has put the gifts in, they validated it, so now, now finance has pushed this date over, you don't have to do the date entry. You've now saved yourself a whole bunch of time by integrating the two. Right? So we don't want to have to we don't want finance to have to redo what fundraising has already done. And we want to make sure that they're both in the system and everything is accurate. So in here you can see, if I scroll down a little bit, here are my transactions. Now again, I posted them in detail mode, so you can see under the reference it gives me the last name and the type of gift, which is of course definable in Razor's Edge. And you can see there's my $100 there. And now in Financial Edge we have what are called projects. And it's the projects that the funds become. So you can see here I've now got my $200 gifts, I've debited my cash account, and then I've credited a contributions revenue account. I can make this bigger or smaller if I need to. And I can see what the options are. So there is my GL post, my batch posted directly from Razor's Edge, so saving us time, saving us energy, saving us money. I'm just going to go ahead and save and close my journal entry. So now at this point, I'm not going to, but at this point we would then, so right now this batch is in what we call an unposted state. It's just there waiting for it to be reconciled, and then when you're ready, you would then post the batch. I'm just going to leave it there for now in case we need to come back and deal with it later. But now we can look at the rest of Financial Edge. So we were looking at the journal entry batches. Of course, you can also do your own. So I can click on the plus sign here and create my own journal entry batch. So we're only talking integration with Razor's Edge, but it's a full accounting system. So you will have other expenses. You will have other things that you want to bring across, right? So you would be able to create your own journal entry batches right here on the fly in the web view, and put all of that information in. Other things we can do in the GL, obviously we can bring stuff across from subledgers. The chart organizer is where we build out our chart of accounts. So when we first initialize and start up Razor's Edge, Financial Edge, this is where we would go. And our chart organizer allows us to define what our chart of accounts looks like. And Financial Edge also has what we refer to as a leveling system. And this allows us to, when we're running reports, to see how little or how much detail we want to print out on a report. So we often will have a default one. We will often have a main chart. And then we'll create some other charts for, depending on what it is, for the external financial statements, internal statements, maybe for the board has a very specific requirement and very specific need. So we can create different charts for them. I'm just going to quickly edit one of them so you can see what I'm referring to in here. But these are all of the accounts. And during the setup process, we would work with you to determine, okay, how do we set these accounts up? How detailed do you need to be? And then, of course, we can just keep on expanding out, and you can go from there. We can then, once we get to a level, we can then add more detail. We can move it around. We can do whatever we need to build out the chart to make sure your financial statements work well. And then, of course, we also have under GL, we can go to our accounts, so we can also set up all the accounts right from here. So there's all our accounts. Financial Edge is very consistent in the way it works. There's always a plus sign to add something new. We also have a quick find. So if I start typing, it will then want to start trying to figure out what I was typing in. So if I type contributions, I can't spell. Oops. Then if I do my search, I can then search for my different contribution accounts, and it's now filtered them out for me so I can see there are my different contribution accounts. I quickly cancel. On the summary screen that appears, I can also use my filters, and I can also use my columns, so I can add additional columns depending on what's available and what I want to see. Right now, I'm filtering out 9 categories and stuff that's active, but I can always come in here, and if I'm using a custom field and attribute, I can add in some other filters to filter out my accounts. So very simple to use, and that's across all the systems. You'll see when we get into reports and other areas, it's the same filtering, it's the same lists. So we've got our accounts, we've got our projects, so we've talked about that. So funds in Razor's Edge basically become projects in Razor's Edge. And so if I come in here and if I look for my OH, I would find my OH Pavilion. And I also have an Orchard Avon activities, again, different IDs that found them in there, both ID and description. I can also look at my DAP project, search for it. And then if I want to edit the project to change a start date, change an end date, maybe that program is over. But I can also define divisions, departments, locations. So again, depending on, so if you happen to have multiple locations, let's say you have an office in Toronto, you have an office in Mississauga, and you have an office in the Yukon, Nunavut, then of course you could define your different locations, and so you could then set those up and you can do reporting based on those. And then we've got a bunch of other options when you're creating up the project. Again, we would go through all this with you during the setup to make sure everything gets set up. And then you've got, if you're doing granting, we can set those up. And then, of course, budgets. Everybody loves budgets, their favorite thing in the world. So we can come in here and you can set up different budgets for the different processes. So you could have a budget for different departments. You could have budgets for different locations if you're a multi-location type organization. Now, everything is all into one, it's all in one area. So you can move between the GL, the payables, the treasury, reporting. It's all in one basic area. Under payables, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here because we're talking integration. We can get in more detail about these, but we can add, obviously, invoices, and you can set it up so the invoices, if they need to be approved by somebody else, again, because it's all in the web, if somebody happens to be away or if they have to be out visiting donors, they can quickly log in through the web and just approve invoices if that's what it takes. If I'm going to add a new invoice, I'm going to do that really quickly. I'm going to search for a vendor, and I'm going to type in 3M, and it found 3M for me. Now, when it does that, it loads up the last couple of invoices that you've previously done. So if you have an invoice that you're paying, let's say rent, and it's always the same expense every month, and you've got to create an invoice for that, or if it's something from Staples or wherever it might be, you can then copy in a previous invoice. So if it's, so that makes, again, the data integration, the data, the speed of which you can get your work done so you can move on and help do some other stuff that advances the whole idea here is we want to make you as efficient as possible so you can advance the mission of your organization. So there are lots of things that we can do within Financial Edge to be able to make that happen. So if I just copy in this other invoice, it'll bring everything in for me, and I can then go from there. You'll see it does have our tax type and our PSB, so you can set those, and then when I get into reports, I'll run the PSB report just so you can see how that is. Okay, you've got your GL distribution. And you have, it does handle all of the Canadian taxes. So if you need to, as you're bringing in multiple items, you can actually set the tax on the different items. So depending on how you've structured and set it up, you can define the tax right by the vendor. You can define the tax right by the item that you're bringing in. In Alberta, for example, they don't have HST, they only have the GST, whereas here in Ontario we have both. We have the HST, which is a combination of the GST and the PST. If it's an Alberta vendor, then you can have it set to GST only, where if it's an Ontario-based vendor, you can have it then set the tax to the HST, and it will handle all of the back-end accounting for the PSB correctly. One of the great things here is the attachment. So you can scan in your invoice. If you had a paper invoice, you could scan it in and then put it right here on there. So if you needed to ever go back and look up something, something didn't make sense, maybe there was a term, a condition, maybe there was something else that was on the invoice that was on the paper copy you received, you could quickly scan it and plunk it in. If you saved it somewhere, you can also copy the link in. Depending on where you need to. Also under payables, obviously we have vendors and then also purchase orders as well. Purchase orders is great if you have a large number of equipment and you need to set up an encumbrance for part of it. Then we can set up the purchase order for that. For, let's say you're buying a $1 million MRI machine, you could set that up, and then as you pay off portions of it and you fundraise for that, you maybe get some government money, you can apply all of that, and then you can set up the encumbrance. So a lot of our healthcare organizations will do that, set up the purchase order so they can deal with the encumbrance a little bit later. Under the Treasury, obviously, we have to record our deposits. You are going to have other deposits other than just Razor's Edge donations. You obviously might have some fee for service. There will be some, maybe you're a landlord, maybe you own the building and you get some rent checks. We have a number of clients that do that. And then we come down to bank statements and credit card statements. I'm only going to show you the bank statement portion, but both of them do allow us to have what are called feeds. And so right now with the bank feeds, I have it connected to my Bank of Montreal bank account. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the benefits is the connecting of the bank account to the actual bank. And then what I can do is I can then download the transactions. So bank reconciliations, I've done them. I've worked with clients who've done them. They're always a pain in the butt to do. So with the bank feeds, you can have it pull those transactions in. It'll try and match up for you, and then you can do, if it's a weird amount, you can go in and match it up. Maybe it was a dinner, maybe it was a payment against a rent expense, whatever it might be. Rogers bill, Bell. You can come in there and link them up and then download the transactions, put them in. So that'll make things a lot simpler and easier for the bank reconciliation process. As well as it's also got a credit card feed as well, but I don't have that linked to my credit card, so I'm not going to go in there. That's actually my real bank account. So I know Sandra and our team, whenever I demo that, she goes, don't click on that. You don't want people, and download your actual banking information. So now, my favorite part of the entire system, obviously, is the reporting. And I love the reporting because it is very easy, it's very point and click, and it gives us what we need. So I've got a couple of reports that I'm going to illustrate here and just show you how easy it is, but it is a full accounting system. Every report, every financial statement, every income statement, cash flow, all of that is in here. I'm just going to show you a couple. Because we're talking integration with Razor's Edge and we want to make things easier, you obviously have, and we talked about those 2 designated funds. So I showed you we had those $200 gifts, one going to the DAP fund, the other one going to our OH Pavilion. So what I've done in here is I've set up a particular financial statement for that particular project. I've set one up for the DAP, and I set one up for the Pavilion. This could be done by location. This could be done by department. This could be done by whatever, however it needs to be set up. So if you have a particular staff member who is raising particular funds for a particular project and they want to know what's the status of that, how much did we have at the beginning of the year? How much have we brought in donations? How much have we spent so far? And then what is remaining inside that? So that's what this project statement will give us. So again, the button with the 3 ellipses gives us a bunch of different options. We can edit. I'm going to edit the report just so I can show you what it looks like. So I've called the title of the report what it is, and then it's got some page footers and page header stuff. Then I come down here into the columns. What do I want to see on the report? And these are all very definable. This is one of the most flexible reports within the Financial Edge system. And what I've actually done in here is I've said, show me the actual, all the money from this year. So I've got it going from January 1st to December 31st. But then I added another column for just this month. So I can see, here's my yearly total, but I also can if I need to reconcile, I want to see what happened this month for a particular reason, then I will do that. Razor's Edge timing out on me, as we all love. And then I can add another column in here if I wanted to. If I wanted to have even an encumbrance column, I could quickly add another column on the fly. I could copy a column from somewhere else if I wanted to put that in. So whatever you need in terms of reporting for particular projects, particular things, we can do that. And then I can, there's a few other filters in here. You can see I'm filtering out just on that one particular thing, but I could add other filters in, again, depending on what the need is. And then you've got your formatting and all the other fun stuff. So what I can do is I'm just going to hit save at this point, and then I'm going to cancel out. I'm going to run it a slightly different way. I could have hit save and run. One of the great things about the reports, and you'll notice that stuff is happening on the right-hand side, is that it doesn't slow your system down and it doesn't pause your system while it's calculating and running. So I've got 3 things that I want to run here. I have my DAP project statement. I've got my Pavilion project statement. So I'm just going to click and choose run, and then I'm going to come down here, do the same thing, say click and choose run. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, it's now loading up the 2 reports, and it will start calculating. I'm now free to go off and do something else. So actually, I'm going to run the PSB report as well. And then when it's done, it tells me it's done. And then I can now, if I wanted to go back over and I wanted, somebody walked in and they need an invoice done really quickly, or I have to issue a purchase order for something, I could quickly come over here. You'll notice it's still chugging away in the corner. I can add my invoice, and while I'm waiting for the report to run. It's now done. It shows me that they're done, and they're just sitting there waiting for me. So now I'll click on View Report, and it will now open up the report, and I can see how this report looks. So as I mentioned in the setup, this first column is showing all of the actual money from the whole year. It's showing me my revenue, and then it gives me my ending balance, and it shows me my balance sheet accounts. And then I also separated out just this particular year. And if I open up the Pavilion one, now this one, over the year, at some point we spent $4,000 on something. So we started the year in January with a $16,000 balance. We raised $100, which was my $100 I put in today. But somewhere along the lines we spent $4,000. And then it tells us our difference, and we can kind of go from there. Right? and I have it separated out. And then, of course, we've got our public sector bodies report, which we talked about a little bit earlier. I'm just going to close these. Yeah, I'm just going to close those. I'm going to run, and then I got a balance sheet report here. And then, of course, you have a few other different options that under the three ellipses. You can export the PDF, you can export it, the report itself, or you can export it in data format, which allows you to play with the data. The advantage of that is that it is true to Excel. So how it looks on the screen is exactly how it's going to look in Excel, and it does take into account what are numbers, and so if you insert lines, there is no additional formatting that you need. Like sometimes when you export stuff out of QuickBooks and other programs, it doesn't export quite right, and you have to futz with it and clean it up a little bit. You don't have to do that. So I'm going to download the report, and then I'm going to open it up here in Excel, and you're going to see it looks just like it needs to look. And if I need, these are all proper amounts, these are all proper type things. If I inserted some columns and some things, it would then adjust it accordingly if I needed to do that. I'm going to take this DAP report, for example. I'm going to export it as a PDF. I'm going to download it. I'm going to open it. Now, one of the great things is that depending on the report, if it has a link back to an account, it would actually let you drill in back into the account within Financial Edge if you had proper security. So if I go back to my GL report, if I export that to a PDF. And I run that. Again, I've got some accounts in here. You'll notice that it turns into the little hand icon. So if I now click on that, it will now bring me back to that actual account. Now, don't worry, you need proper security to do that. If you sent this report to somebody and they didn't have, obviously I'm already logged into Financial Edge. But if I wasn't, it would then prompt you to log them in Financial Edge. So that option may not be available. You may not want to give that to everybody, but maybe your treasurer on your board or some other remote staff, if you have staff working across the country, in different areas. We have a lot of clients that have different satellite offices, for example, and different people want to do different things. We can send them the PDF, they can click on it, and they can open it up themselves. So there's my DAP, there's that, and then we're back to my report list. The final thing we're going to talk about is under analysis. And the Sky reporting that Blackbaud has built out is phenomenal, arguably better than any other program that I have seen. And you can see we've got dashboards, and we've got also some insights, so we can start building out your own sort of custom reports. If there's something that you need, you can start sort of building them out. Whether that's projects by month, projects by location, if you are a multi-sited organization, if depending on how you've set up your projects, how you've set up your what are called transaction codes for other segmentation, other reporting, we can do sort of real-time reporting on those, and then we can share out those dashboards and things like that. So I've got this dashboard. Now this is just, I've got, some metrics here, some, journal entries and new invoices and new vendors. If I look at my projects by month, this is sample data, so I'm not sure what it's going to give me here. Let's just see what it gives me. So I've got this up here. The other thing I can do is you'll notice that there is some buttons over here on the side. So this first one is scheduling. So what I can actually do is I can actually schedule this dashboard to be emailed to people at a fixed time if I wanted to. So every Monday morning, I could email all of the project leads a dashboard about their particular project, depending on how we've defined it. Of course, I can download it as a PDF if I need it to, and I can also export it to Excel if that's what it takes. So you can define these. You can structure these up. And then now coming soon are going to be the insights in the dashboard builder, where you're going to be able to do your own sort of things. So because these are in beta, I have access to them. They're not quite released yet, but they are coming sometime this year. And you're going to be able then this is really just a drag and drop kind of process to kind of build your own sort of insights. So I can just scroll down here, and I can take, my project description, and I can drag it over here, and then it's going to start real-time calculating what I need it to do. And then I can drag some other things into the different axes, and I can build some other stuff. So coming soon with the Sky reporting, you're going to have sort of real-time, good instant access to this data. And so you can give your users, they can come in, you can build these insights for them. And so you can quickly take the Razor's Edge data that they're putting in, and you can then push that across and see almost real time how things are doing, how the fundraising is going. If you've got a big holiday event, you've got a Christmas event, you've got a Rosh Hashanah event, Ramadan event, you can sort of see exactly sort of real time that stuff is happening, sort of how you're doing for those particular things. If you have a big fundraising peer-to-peer event, and you got people making donations online through Luminate, pulling that donation stuff into Razor's Edge and then pushing it across to Financial Edge. And then, of course, under Control Panel, we've got some security, and we've got some other things in there. A couple of things under Applications I want to talk about. There are two things that Blackbaud has created, is a journal entry add-on for Excel, as well as the Budget Creator for Excel. Both of them allow you to take data from Excel and push them into Razor's Edge. So you can build your budgets in Excel. We know it's obviously a little faster to do that, and then you'd be able to push that straight in. The journal entry, if you're getting data from an external source, then we can pull that data in. So sometimes the banks will give us some external data. We might be getting it from some other fundraising organizations that we want to deal with. We can take that data into Excel, format it up, and then push them into Financial Edge into a journal entry. And then I'm just going to go back to the home screen, where it gives me some updated welcome news, updated information. The last thing I want to talk about is the help. And that's the little green icon over here next to my face. Wherever you are in the system, it gives you real-time help. And from there, you can scroll down, you can see what it is you're looking at. And then from there, if you need to, you can check within the great Blackbaud community, check their knowledge base, or if you're stuck on something, then you can open up a real-time chat request with the great support analysts and answer any question from there. So that is sort of how we integrate Razor's Edge and some of the key features in Financial Edge NXT, which is, when you join the two together, going to make them a very powerful combination and help you ultimately, at the end of the day, raise more money. I am going to check the questions, and there is one question here. The audio and video presentation, yes, I will make all of this available to you, and I will send them out to you individually later on this week once the recording is published and we get it up on the website and things like that. If you have any other questions, you can throw them in the chat, and that's all I have at the moment. I am going to another question about HST. So yes, it does. So yes, it will help you with the HST rebate. I talked about the public sector bodies report. So yes, that is all built into Financial Edge. So when you record an invoice, you put in the different taxes. Razor's Edge, or Financial Edge, excuse me, does take care of all of that and will help you produce whatever it is you need to be able to get your HST and your HST rebate. It will calculate all of that for you, depending on the PSB, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, and because of that, it will help you generate the information from both Razor's Edge and Financial Edge to be able to produce the CRA T3010 which is obviously the government report, the financial statement, income tax report that every charity and actually human has to file as well. So that will actually streamline that process, make that easier for you, pulling in the information from both Raiser's Edge and Financial Edge to give you that. And then you also asked about payroll. Payroll is an interesting question, and I'll deal with each organization individually about how you do your payroll now and how that can be done in Raiser's Edge. I'm going to stop the recording here.